Welcome back, students. So today in this session we will be discussing the next concept of compiler construction of your third unit, which is termed as Yawk. So what is basically Yawk? So here if I say previously in the last unit we have already discussed a concept on lex, right? So that lex was being used for lexical analyzer phase. Okay, that lex was a tool. Similarly, Yawk is also a tool, okay, which is used in the next phase. So this tool basically acts as a part of your LALR grammar generation, okay. I mean, if you just know what is Yawk refers to, you can say that it stands for yet another compiler. So here is actually a tool which produces a parser. I mean, what happens in this in Lex, you have already seen that whenever you have given a program, it will generate into a set of tokens. So what is the role of Lex? So the input to the Lex will be the program, and the output for the Lex is the set of tokens, right? Similarly, Yawk is also a tool. Okay, Yawk is also a tool which will be performed after this, after Lex. What the role of Yawk is? It takes the set of tokens as an input. What it takes the set of tokens as an input along with grammar. And which grammar it will be? It will be BNF grammar. So using this BNF grammar and set of tokens, what is the role of Yawk? It will give you a parse tree, because the second phase of compiler is termed as parser. Okay, the second phase is called as parser. So I mean, the process which performs in the second phase is about parse tree generation. So in this one, what happens is it will take the set of tokens as an input along with the grammar, which is BNF grammar. It takes that and it will give you output as an parse tree. Now how this is going to perform? So basically one can say what is Yawk is refers to. It's a tool, it's a program which returns, which have some standards, and we need to see what are the standards and how this is going to perform here. So that is why I said you that, as you know, the Yawk is already a tool. So the main intention of tool is to produce a parser, to produce a parse tree. Now this producing a parse tree is being performed with the help of parser for a given grammar. I mean, grammar to grammar, the parse tree generation process get changed. Because of the given grammar, the rules will be according to the rules that has to be framed, and you know what happens is the parse tree will be going to be get generated differently for different grammar. So now, as we have already seen regarding LR parser, as we have already seen regarding LR parser, so this LR parser is used in bottom-up parser, right? It's a one kind of bottom-up parser. So in that one, we have already seen a cop grammar, I mean a parser called as LALR of 1. So this is the last concept which we have seen, which we have covered in the last session. So now what we are doing is this Yawk, I mean the tool Yawk is a program. Just now I said you, what is this? A tool means it's a program. Why it has been designed, how it is designed? It has been designed to compile this LALR1 grammar. Because the grammar, it is taking what? The grammar here. Set of tokens as an input, along with that it takes a grammar. So which grammar it is? It's an LALR grammar. Which grammar it is? LALR of 1 grammar. So using this LALR1 of grammar and using the set of tokens, it will be going to be get generated as a parse tree. And you know how a grammar can be known that whether it's a LALR1 or not, because in the previous session we have already discussed that how to identify that the given grammar is a LALR1 of grammar or not. So if that grammar is an LALR1 grammar, then that grammar can be used as an input for Yawk in order to generate a parse tree. So that is why what happens in Yawk is here that it produces the source code, okay, of the language, I mean the syntactic analyzer of the language produced by whom? by LALR1 grammar. That's an important thing here. So that is why the input of this YAG is the rule or the grammar. Okay, just now I have already said you. So the grammar itself is an input and the output is what a C program here. Okay. In Lex also we have seen the process that Lex will give you a C program, and that C program you have to compile that program, and whenever you give any example for that given grammar, it will generate what a parse tree for YAG, and for Lex it will give you a set of tokens for the given source of code. So you know Lex and YAG are similar in process, but their intentions are different. Lex intention is to give you a set of tokens and YAG intention is to give you a parse tree of the given token which is satisfying LALR1 grammar as well. So that is the, some kind of similarity, and also there is some kind of differentiation is also there. Mostly in examination point of view also, you might be getting a question which is combinedly they may ask you about Lex and YAG, or else they may ask you simply about Lex, or else they may ask you about simply YAG. So it's based on the question. Now the thing is that how this YAG is actually works here. You know that YAG is a tool. Okay, YAG is a tool. So the tool is your program. So now the program, I mean the tool, I mean you can term this as YAG specification. What you can call this as YAG specification, which is, I mean there is an example here. So for example, the parser is how the name of a file. What is this parser? Is the name of a file with .y as an extension. This .y refers that it's an YAG file. Okay, the extension for YAG file is what? .y, which says that it's a YAG file. Now this uses YAG compiler. What it uses? YAG compiler. And what is the role of YAG compiler? This program, I mean the program which has been taken with the name called parser with an extension of .y, it takes as an input for that and it gives you a relevant C file for the given program. So that's why the extension for this file is your .c. This .c refers to that it's a C file. So now using this C file, in the second phase, what we are taking, we are using a C compiler. Now what is the role of C compiler? C compiler naturally will take as a C file with an extension of .c, right? And it will give you an executable file which is called as a.out. What is this a.out refers to? Executable file of a C program. Now using this executable file, I mean using this output file a.out, what we are doing is whenever we enters an input in that one, okay, in a.out, so input here in the sense input, it will be what input we have said, I have said you the input I have said you as a set of tokens. The input I have taken as a set of tokens. So now this set of tokens, including with the help of grammar, and this grammar will be specified in YAG specification. So based on that grammar, that means YAG program is there in this YAG specification. In the program, we are using some specific grammar rules. So we need to see what are these rules are. So using that grammar rules, the grammar has to be taken. So here in the input, what happens basically is will be what? This contains a set of tokens, and finally the output of this will be your parse tree. What is the output of this? Will be your parse tree. That's the role of YAG here. So in this way the working happens here. So what happens usually in the first phase, you will be having YAG compiler which takes as a YAG program by an extension of .y, and you can give a name of the file, something you can give any name. Here it has been taken as parser. Now the output of this will be a C file. That's why you can find the extension as .c. Now using this C file with the help of C compiler, what we are doing, we are compiling the C program and we are getting the output file of the C program with a name called as a.out. Because if you do this in GCC compiler, you will get this a.out, and further using this a.out, upon giving input of tokens, finally it will give you a relevant parse tree. So in this way the YAG is going to work here. Now just now I said you about the process. So here there is an example. So for example, you have given an input which is a context free grammar file. I mean, in this program, what .y means here, YAG program. What is this? YAG program. And this YAG program contains what? Grammar rules, I said you, right? What it contains? The grammar rules. So the grammar rules here means the rules, I mean, along with the rules, the grammar, given grammar has also been taken. So that grammar is normally a context free grammar, and remember, this context free grammar will satisfy LALR1 of grammar, will satisfy or LALR of one grammar. So this grammar file will be there as an input, which is has an extension of .y here. Now what is the output here? The output will be in this way. Just now we have seen y.tab.c, right? So that output will be given by YAG here. Now this output file.output, what it contains? It contains parsing table. Remember, now this file contains what? Parsing table. What it contains? Parsing table. Okay, parsing table. And here we can take, if I want to take for example in declaration also, because there are various sections in that, so declaration is also one of the section. So if you are taking declaration section, you can take the file name called file.tab.h, which is an header file. So you can take also, and also what we have to take here is that we have to take some functions. Here we are taking what? Subroutines here. What is that? YY parse. Okay, so this YY parse has to be taken in the program. Okay, we will be discussing on this functions as well. And this, in this YY parse is actually a function in which what happens, parser expects this to use a function called YYLex. So this YYLex is a function. What is the role of YYLex is, it will give you tokens, because you know what the input, what the given C file is your tokens. So how to get this input as a tokens? With the help of this YYLex function. So this function will give you a set of tokens, and using that tokens with the help of grammar, it will finally give you a parse tree. So this YYLex function is used accordingly for that reason. Now if you go with the programming structure of this, so this programming structure is very similar to Lex. So you know there are 3 divisions here. So the first division stands from here to here. Okay, and the second division is from here to here, and the third division from here to here. So this first division is about declarations. Okay, is about declaration. So in this declaration, if it is a part of C file, okay, if the declaration contains of related to C file, then you need to enclose within this one. What is this? Percentile, opening brackets, and closing bracket, percentile. In between this only all the C declarations, whether it is header files, C header files if you are taking, okay, also variable declaration. What you have to take? Also variable declaration, as well as constants. So this constants or else variable declaration or header files are being taken in the part of this section. So in this way you are taking the first part. So in this first part, the other is also there, other declaration apart from C declarations. If there are any other declarations, then you have to take in this part after this symbol, and before this 2 symbol. What is this? Percentile. So this percentile says that the second part has been started here, which is the rules, I mean the grammar rules, because I said you a YAG program contains a set of grammar rules. I mean, for the given grammar, what rules has to be followed, how the grammar has to be processed, in what sense the grammar has to be processed, in what are the identifiers in that, how the values will be taken. All of this information with respect to the grammar, the rules has been defined. So such set of rules has to be taken in the second part of this programming structure, which is in between 2 percentiles here. So here this part is your second part. So about to this part and after this part, because this part, this says that the C declaration has completed. So other declarations which are related with YAG, so such declarations you can take in between this 2 of this declarations between two of these symbols. So in between of these two symbols you can take Yag declarations. And the second part, as I just now said you, what are these are the grammar rules. Okay, so we will be seeing that how it will be performed here. So in this way we are taking here, as well as this last part is your auxiliary functions. Okay, what you are taking auxiliary functions, which is you can call as subroutines here. So whatever the C functions are the C actual program which you are taking here, I mean the main function, I mean you can take here YYLX function. Okay, I said you YYLX function, what is the purpose of YYLX function? To get the set of tokens. Along with that, various other subroutines which are the part of your C program will be taken in this block, which is your auxiliary function or your user subroutine. So which is the final part of your program structure, in which the mostly what happens is your actual C program, what you are taking here will be taken into that consideration. So in this way the program structure will be having, and that will be divided into three parts broadly. So the first part is about declarations including C declaration. The second part are the rules, which are grammar rules, and the third part is your auxiliary functions, which are subroutines and which are being used in your C program. So this is how the program structures divisions will be there. Now if I implement this program structure, then we will be seeing with an example that how exactly that will be taken here. Now I said you the rules we have to specify. So in this one we are specifying the rules. For example, you know there is a grammar. So for example here the format of the given grammars are there. So here this is your left hand side and this is your right hand side. I mean right hand side contains terminals as well as non-terminals, but left hand side contains only non-terminals here. So here the left hand side are containing terminals, okay, non-terminals. So we are taking non-terminals here, and here what happens is that we are taking non-terminals as well as terminals. And this alternatives means, you know, sometimes what happens for a given grammar, for example if I'm taking a grammar called C of, here it is you know AC or small b is there. Now if you observe this grammar, what happens if you observe this production, in the left hand side what you can find only a single symbol which is a non-terminal, and in the right hand side you have a set of two productions. I mean this grammar, if I take in this way, I have to specify in this way. How should I specify? I have to specify as C of AC or C of B. So that means what is this? This is the set of two productions. So in the first production what happens? It's a combination of terminal as well as non-terminal. But here it is what? Just terminal. So here alternatives means if there are any alternatives, if there are other than AC, what is the alternative of this grammar C is what? The B. So that has to be taken in this like this. And if it is semicolon here, it means you have to take semicolon here. So in this way the format of the grammar, that means each line by line it will be specified here. So what happens here is that, for example, A is a non-terminal is a left hand side. If here A is a non-terminal in the left hand side, and the right hand side whatever you have terms, for example if you consider this production which is C of AC or B, now this combination of AC or B you can call them as a body. What you can call them as body here, and here this left hand side here just C is there, so you can use them as what? Non-terminal name. What is this? LHS part, because it is there in the left hand side here. So that's why you are taking as an left hand side and you're naming them whatever the name you have, you can take along with that. Now what this body contains? This body contains names, literals here. For example, you know if there are some operations are there, you can take C of A plus B or A minus B. So now here literals has been added here. Okay, so literals can be there, can have names or any actions, whatever it is, all together it will consider as a body here, and this body will be actually be taken a part of as your right hand side of your given grammar. So that means in the literals, so literal can be, it's not just only arithmetic operators such as addition, multiplication. Along with that, even the new line is your literal here. And literals, how can you say that it literal? Because literals are always enclosed in with in quotes, okay, in single quotes. So here plus is there, which is also a literal. New line comment is there because you are using C language here, so you are using what, some comments are there, so that you can use them as a literals here, as if you are using single quote, or else if you are using new line. So all these are what, literals. What are this? Literals. And this literals actually a part of your body of your grammar, and this body of your grammar will be there at the right hand side. Okay, so now if I just now I said you that if there is a grammar something like this, A of B, A of CD, A of E F G, okay, so now that means what you can find in the given three rules, the left hand side part is A only, right? The left hand side is not going to change, so here it is just A only. So instead of writing this, I can specify it in this manner. How I can specify? A of B or A of CD or A of E F G, and this semicolon which is there can be taken in the next line. So in this way the Yak rules can be, the grammar can be specified here. Okay, further if I elaborate, I have to use the actions also, because body contains not only the names, not only literals, but also it contains actions. Names we have taken A, B, that names can be, you can take as terminals, you can take as non-terminals, and literals I have specified just now what are literals called. But the next thing is, what are actions here? What are actions here which are actually a part of your right hand side? So this right hand side, the actions will be, if you consider this example here what happens, the left hand side something has been given xxx, and here at the right hand side yyzz. So this yy is what, the name here, but what is action here? The action will be, here you are taking in curly braces, something you are printing this message, so I'm using printf here. So this printf message has to be taken here. Okay, and here what we are using, for example, like if I'm taking C of A plus B, okay, so in actions, so C, as you know, it's a left hand side, it contains only what, one symbol, so I can specify them as $, because this is the $, represent as a left hand side of the rule, and at the right hand side we are using $n, and this n refers for the position from position of the rule from at the right hand side. So if you observe this, A is at first location, plus is at the second location, and B is at the third location. So instead of specifying $, I can specify here as $1. This $1 we represents for A, and this plus, which is literal, can be represented for $2, and this B is, as you know, the third symbol, so I can specify them as $3. So in this way, and all this together we can take in actions, and that actions you can take in curly braces. Okay, for example, there is an example has been given over here. What is this? There is an grammar where expression has been given, and here it has been given in 2 brackets. So now you may think that brackets will not be considered as a part separately, but here it is considering separately. So that's why in this actions, in this singular, in this curly braces, expression is what, the left hand side. So I said you here what we are using $. So this $, will be taken here, and this at the right hand side, what we are to take, we shouldn't take literals here, we just needs to take what, the expressions, or you are taking the names. So I'm just considering the name only. So if you observe this, opening bracket will be considered as $1, expression will be considered as $2, and closing bracket will be considered as $3. So if I take this, how should I take here in this bracket is that $dollar is equals to $2, because in between $1 and $3 the expression value of $2 is there here. So this $2 has been taken in this expression, which is enclosed in curly braces. So in this way the actions has to be taken while taking the grammar rules here. Now we will be taking a program of YAG for an infix calculator. So here we are using, as I said you, the first part of your program contains declarations. Okay, so contains declarations, or you can say definitions. So here we are using, apart from C declaration, we are using YAG definitions. Here we are using 3 definitions such as percentile union, percentile start line, and percentile type. What are this is that if I say percentile start line, it means that the whole input should match the line. I mean, what happens is that if a grammar is there, complete grammar will be taken into consideration for matching complete line. That means all the literals, all the variables, all the symbols should match. Okay, that matching process will happen here. So in this start line, okay, we'll see with an example here, the next example. And this union percentage union refers that whatever the values which you are taking in the grammar, and all the values in the grammar will be taken here, and it gives a field name. So with the help of, by what we can take, with the help of percentile union you are taking. Okay, and in the same time percentage type if you are taking, then this is how in union we are clubbing all the values together as part of your grammar, and we are giving a field name for that particular combination. Similarly, when we are using percentile type, so here individual type, I mean, you know, in a grammar it contains different things. It contains literals, it contains it contains names. So all this will be considered individually. Why? Because we are going to specific, and as we are going to specific, we are using percentile type here. And percentile union means there is no specificness here will be taken. All of together will be combined, and that will be associated just as a part of your grammar. So that we are taking here. So in the first part of your program, how we have taken is that we have taken C declaration. So I just said you just now that in the C declarations we are taking header files, we can take C variables declarations, we can take constants. So here we just taken an header file which is hash include stdio.h. So that have been taken here. And in YAG definition, the same 3 things which I just now specified, such as union, for start line, or for type. When I'm going for type, a specific type has been specified here, so I need to specify the specific type in this line. So moving to the next part of your program, the next part of your program will start by taking this separator symbol. So what is this separator symbol? Percentage, percentage. Because in the structure, I mention you that the program structure will be divided into 2 parts. So the first part is this one, the second part is your grammar rules, and the third part is your auxiliary functions, or you can term them as subroutines. So in the second part, the rules are there. So these rules, for example, for every line of grammar, we need to consider the grammar line. Along with that, we need to take their corresponding actions as well. So here, for example, the given grammar is there here. Initially what happens, we have taken a line with a single value expression. Okay, because in the right hand side we just have expression here, and here \n we have taken, because as you know it is a line. So what happens, if the next time if it going to be get print, it will be print in the any content which it will print in the next line. That's why we have taken the literals called as new line. So the action will be, I mean, you are printing the value here. So this printf statement we are using, and with the help of result is, and this percentile d is actually an integer value here. What is this? An integer value. So that integer value, that's why we taken as percentile d here. And why I have specified $1 only? It is because only one value is printing, that is the expression value, which is an integer value. So as you know, it is the right hand side part of first value. So as I mentioned you in the rules, yeah, I mentioned you in this rules. What is that? The first part of your the first part of your right hand side will be considered as $1. So in this one also, as expression is the first part of your grammar, I mean the right hand side, so here we are taking $1. We are not printing any other value, that's why we just taken as $1 here. Similarly, if I go to the next grammar, so this is some sample grammar is there, because in order to perform calculator, what grammar I can require? I can have a simple term, or else I can add two numbers, or I can subtract two numbers, or I can multiply or divide them. So all these possibilities of grammars has been taken in the grammar rules. So if you observe this line, expression of term, so in the right hand side you just have only one term and expression is there. So here it is $, and in the term it is $1. So that has been taken in action here. So if you observe in action, because actions are enclosed in curly braces, so expression refers to $, and term, as it only have a single right hand side term, so that's why I specified as $1. And this is OR symbol, because I said you in the grammar you need to specify by using OR symbol. So in the next production of the grammar, you will be having an expression plus term. So here $, is there, expression, and here because left hand side we just have an expression, and right hand side we have $1, and plus is a literal, right? Is a literal, so we are not considering that, but it's a part of $2, and the term is your $3. So this $1 and $3 has been taken in the set of actions. Similarly, in the next line of grammar, we are taking expression minus term. So this expression refers to $1 minus term is the third part, that's why $3. And all this has been taken again in actions. Similarly, there is again a grammar is there, which is we are referring as term as a factor. So again in this one, in term and factor, term is a single left hand side term. In left hand side term I said you have to consider $, and right hand side term as factor is only the first part, so we have to consider as $1 here. Similarly, term into factor means $1, and this is into means $2 and factor. So we are taking $1 into $3. We need to exclude the literals for representing this dollar symbols, because here we are adding with the numbers, we are adding with the values. Okay, so here term is there, term divided by factor means $1 divided by $3. Similarly, in factor, number, so factor is $, and number is $1, and here expression is there. So this opening bracket is $1, expression is $2, and closing bracket is $3. So we need expression, not the opening and closing bracket. That's why $, is equals to $2. So this is how an action has been taken, and this is how the part of your grammar, which is the second part of your grammar. What is it? The rules. Similarly, as we consider numbers, so numbers can be digits, right? Okay, so that number digits has been specified here, as well as number digit is also there, which has been specified here. But if I'm going with the exact value, instead of having taking variables, such as I'm taking a value called 0, 1 or 2, here we are not taking, we are taking what? The value. We are taking actually the constant here. So what we are taking here is that instead of specifying $1 here, we have to take as 0 itself only. But this digit is not yet clearly specified. That's why we need to use as $. So that is why in every line you can observe that $, is equals to 0 when the digit is 0, and when the digit is 1, it is $, is equals to 1. When the digit is 2, it is the action is performing as $, is equals to 2. So on up to when the digit is 9, it is taking an action as $, is equals to 9. So in this way, because you are specifying the exact value, constant value, whereas in this one the values are not cleared here, the expression terms are there, it can be any value. So for that reason, at the right hand side, instead of taking the values, we are using $1 to locate the particular value, $3 to get the next third value for the third symbol, for third part of your right hand side of your grammar. So in this way the grammar rules has been specified and has been taken as the second part of your program. Now the third part is what? Your C code. Subroutines, auxiliary functions I said you. And in that I said you that we are taking another function which is main function. So firstly we taken, because third part starts with this separator symbol which is percentile, and mostly this part will contain the C code. So in this initial part we are taking a main function, and here what happens, we need to call this YY_parse. This YY_parse is what? A function which is calling parsing process. Okay, so this YY_parse has to be called, and this will be called in the main function. That's why we have taken in the main function, finally we are returning the YY_parse function. And here we get the main function get closed. Similarly, I said you that we are using YYLex function in order to get what? In order to get tokens. So tokens are actually characters. So by what method we are taking? We are using getChar here. So this getChar function is used. So that getChar function will give you a character, a set of characters. If you call for multiple number of times, multiple characters, multiple tokens will be given to the to Yag to get the parse tree for the given set of tokens. So here that's why YYLex is a function which returns, the main intention of YYLex is to give the tokens. So that tokens will be taken in the form of characters, and these characters can be accessed with the method called getChar. Finally, in the third function what happens, we are using YYError. So this is how something to display the error message. So here if you observe in the third line you will get this, whenever an error deducts in the input, so this function will get called here, and it finally print, because it will print from the file function. That's why you are using fprintf instead of taking printf, so that the string at where the error is there, that will be printed here. So in this way YYError function can be called, okay, whenever that program deducts an error, okay, in the given input. Because if the input is not well, how can we get the correct parse tree? So the thing is that the input should be correct, but if the input is not correct, so YYError will be get called, showing that there is an error in the given input. Okay, so with this what happens, we taken this YYParse. Just now I said you that what is the role of this YYParse, and YYLex I also said you to get what? To get the characters. Similarly, the final is YYError. So all these functions are the part of your third part of your program, okay, which is your auxiliary functions, which is your C program code. That's why in comments you can observe here we taken as C code, showing that it's a part of your C program file. So in this way the Yag program has been specified here. Okay, and here now the next topic is about error recovery. See, already error recovery we have seen in top-down parser, and we have studied some of the method. What are the methods we have studied? We have studied panic mode method. Also we have studied phrase level recovery. So now the same thing we are implementing, but with respect to LR grammar, because in top-down parser, in the previous concept when we have seen about error recovery concept in top-down parser, we have used as LL parser. What we have used as LL parser. But when I'm going for bottom-up parser, we need to consider for LR parsing strategies. We need to find out the recovery techniques, I mean what error techniques, recovery techniques which we are adopting. That techniques has to be adopted in LR parsing method, because this LR parsing method is basically of bottom-up parsers. So now in bottom-up parser, as I said you that we are using LR parser method. What we are using? We are using LR parser method. So in this LR parser method, generally what happens, it will deduct an error. Okay, how the errors will be deducted? You know what happens, you will be having a parsing table. Okay, in that parsing table you will be having parsing action table. So that what happens, it will, I mean it will deduct an error whenever it finds that if there is any blank or error entry in the given parsing table. If there is a blank entry or if there is any error entry in that, so LR parsing tries to deduct that error. And what happens, because you may have you will be having a go to part in the table, so errors are never deducted by consulting the go to table. So you won't get the clarity in when you refer the go to table, because in go to table, see, if this is, let us consider this is your parsing table, and you will be having actions and you will be having go to. And if you refer go to part, you will never be understanding that there is an error. So you need to refer the action part here. So that action part will let you know what if there are any errors, that errors have been specified in action part only. So that will be taken here. So that we need to consider here, and that is how it will performed. So in this LR parser method, so it will deduct an error as there is a no valid continuation. Valid continuation means, for example, if there is a string, is there, and that string that will be performed with the help of parsing table, it will tries to generate the parse tree by getting the set of productions. So what happens, all of a sudden, if there is no valid continuation for the given input, whatever the input which is scanned, I mean if I'm taking an input string to generate the set of productions for the given grammar. So if suppose at one instance, if there is no valid continuation for the given input which the parser going to scan, so at the time it will deduct an error. Similarly, in CLR, a canonical LR parser, what happens, it will not make even a single reduction before announcing the error. That means what happens, error will be announced first, then after that only reduction process will perform. I said you reduction will perform only for what? The final items. Final items, how can you say that it's a final items? For example, this is a production is there. Now after dot, if there is no particular value, then it enters into final state. So this, like this states are there, for them reduction process performs. So what happens is that there won't be any reduction until and unless there should be an announcement for the given error. So CLR won't perform reduction process before announcing the error. If there is any error, it will announce the error first, then it goes for the reduction process. And next is about SLR or LALR parser, which is the final one parser. So in this one, what happens is it will take several reductions before deducting an error. That means before deducting an error, reductions can happen. But one more thing in the last part is, but they never shift an erroneous input into the stack. Because here bottom-up parser performs two actions, shift operation and reduction process, reduce action. Reduce action can be performed in SLR and LALR parser, but there won't be any shift operation of whom? For the erroneous input symbol, okay, into the stack, because every symbol, whatever it reads, it will first take into the stack. But if the even input is a erroneous input, so it won't shift that input into the stack. Okay, even after reductions can also happen, but what happens is that the erroneous input symbol will not be going to be taken into the stack. Okay, so that is about what? About the LALR and SLR parser. Now I have said you that error recovery strategies. So if you go with error recovery strategies, there are various strategies are there in error recovery process. The most important two which we have discussed previously and which we are covering in this topic as well is panic mode recovery. What is this? Panic mode recovery. And what the second one is phrase level recovery. Now if you I'm just recollecting the concept of panic mode. So what is this panic mode recovery means? I said you in the previous topic where I've explained you the error recovery strategy in panic mode. What is that panic mode? Panic mode means, for example, in the given input, what we are taking in the parsing table, what we are taking in the stack implementation for the given input, if there is an error in the input so it skips that input. What happens? It simply skips that input and it continues to the next part of your input, and it skips that erroneous input. I should specify that it skips erroneous input. So that erroneous input will be skipped here and it resumes parsings. After skipping that, it resumes parsing. It resumes parsing further for the next input. That means it resumes parsing for synchronizing tokens. Synchronizing tokens comes to phrase level. Okay. So in phrase level recovery, what happens in phrase level recovery is that phrase level recovery will try to rectify the error and it gives you the appropriate symbol for the given error where it finds. Let us assume, like, if you are taking a program, if you have missed something, if you have written something else apart from the actual symbol, so it re-updates that and it updates correctly. And it won't skips here. Phrase level recovery, what happens? It won't skips that and it tries to rectify that. Okay. So in that sense, phrase level recovery works here. Okay. So it won't skips. It won't skips. It just updates that. It's correct. It automatically updates that. Automatically updates it. Okay, and after updating that, it will give you, I mean, the process get continues, the resuming process get continues. The resume that means the process get resume in phrase level recovery. Okay, so like that it will be going to happen. That means, for example, if you find that balancing parenthesis is there, one parenthesis is missing here, and it expects that if this, by this parenthesis, that error will get recovered, so it will try to take that symbol, it inserts that. So phrase level is something it deletes some errors. Okay, if it finds that it is not useful, it can delete. It can update means it can replace, it can delete, it can replace, or else it can add symbol. So it can perform three operations. What is that? It can delete, either it can replace, either it can add any symbol, so that what happens, the process get resumed successfully. That is how the role of phrase level recovery. So now we are seeing that process only. So as I said you, in panic mode, what is how this panic mode means? We are simply skipping. So how it skips? The first thing is that if you observe here, it firstly scan down the stack. Okay, for example, if it starts the process, so if there are any values in the stack, so it starts scanning down the stack until a state with a goto on a particular non-terminal is found. That means if there is any non-terminal is there, okay, with a goto function, it will found that. I mean, what happens, simply I just said that it will scan the process in the stack, and if it finds 0 or more than 0, I mean more input symbols, if it finds that if they are actually not required or if they are erroneous in nature, simply it discards that. What did do that? It simply discards until a symbol A which is legitimately follow the non-terminal A. That means you can simply say that that's a valid symbol. Okay, that's a valid symbol which is legitimately following A, means that is a part of your grammar. Okay, up to what symbol it scans? Up to the symbols, up to that symbol when it receives the valid symbol. Okay, so I mean, discarding process, it's not something that it has to be discarded. So I mean, 0 symbol can also discards, it can discard more than 0 symbol as well. So how can it decides that whatever the symbol it is scanning, and it won't discard that symbol? Like suppose A is there, it won't discard the symbol because this A is found in the follow of A. So here we have seen that first and follow operation, right? So in the follow operation, follow of non-terminal will be there, right? Here follow of A is there. So whatever the symbols which it follows by this non-terminal A, it will consider as a part of that one. But the other symbols which are not the part of this non-terminal, it will simply discards that. Okay. So what happens is that this parser then stack the state goto. Okay, what happens after taking that this A is a valid part because this A is in the follow of A. This A is in the follow of A, so it performs goto operation, goto of S of A, and simply it resumes normal parsing. Why? Because you find the symbol A which is a valid symbol because that A is actually a part of follow operation of A. That means it can resumes normal parsing. So this is how the parsing process performs here. And in the next point, what is going to happen is the situation might exist when there is more than one choice for the, see here, the non-terminal A can have multiple productions. For example, you may have AA is there, or BB is there, or C is there, or D is there. So multiple productions are there, right? For example, if you find that there is an error in this set of production, so what happens is that it will go to the next choice of that production, which is a part of non-terminal A. Okay, so on it will perform all of this thing process. So that's why the situation can exist when there is more than one choice for non-terminal A. Okay, so here this would be non-terminals representing major program pieces. So how can you say that it is moving to the next line? So it will be moving with the help of an expression, with the help of a statement, or else it's a block. Okay, like this, what happens is that a block is the block of means group of statements, group of expressions can be there. For example, if A is in the non-terminal statement, this small a might be semicolon or else closing brackets. So in this way, what happens, because of this semicolon or this closing bracket, it marks that the given end of a statement sequence. Okay, by that only it will think that the end of statement sequence has been end here, because you can use semicolon or closing brackets here. So in this panic method, what generally happens is that it simply attempts to eliminate the phrase containing the syntactic error. Okay, just now I have said you this example. Here A is there, B is there, C is there, D is there. So here, for example, if any error is there, simply it discards that and it goes for the next one. As simple as that. And what happened finally is that the parser which determined that a string derivable from A contains an error. Okay, that means the string which has already been processed has already, and the result of this process is a sequence of steps, sequence of states on the top of stack. Okay, because everything whatever you are reading from the input will be initially taken in the top of the stack and the stacks get incremented. So the latest symbol what you have taken from the input symbol has been taken as the top of the stack. So based on the top of the stack, we can come to know that up to what part the string has been processed. Okay. And what happened finally is that the remainder of the string is still in the input and the parser attempts to skip over the remainder by looking for a symbol. For example, here for a string, multiple symbols are there. For example, here it is something like, A plus B. Okay, just leave this one. And here it is. What happened? Closing bracket is there. A, like this it is. For example, here I am writing here A plus B closing bracket. So here it reads A, here it reads plus, but actually there is no plus here. Okay, so there is an error here. So what happens is that this A is already there in the stack. Okay, then the top of the stack, because that has been performed by a shift operation. But when it comes to this symbol, you may find that the given symbol is an erroneous in nature. So simply what is that? The remainder of this string, means plus B closing bracket is the remainder of the string. So it will check whether for the given symbol, I mean for the given non-terminal, the set of non-terminals will be there, right? So for that given non-terminals, whether this symbol is following in that follow operation of that non-terminal or not. If it is not following, simply it skips that input, I mean it skips plus, okay, and it performs the next operation. Okay, and after skipping plus, again it resumes parsing process. Again it takes B, but all of a sudden, for example, closing bracket is there, here again error is there, so again it skips here. So like that, simply it skips that error and it resumes parsing by skipping the particular symbol here. So in that way, what happens? Panic mode performs. Whereas I said you about phrase level recovery. Phrase level recovery means first what happens, it examines error entry in the LR action table. I mean, for example, if a table is there, so in that table it first examines that where are the error entries are there. So based on that error entries, it will decide that what action has to be taken. Okay, so here for example, there is an example here. If you observe this table, there is a grammar called E of E++ or ID. Okay, now what happens is that here, for example, the given expression is there, which is initially what happens, E of dot of E plus E and E of dot ID, which is in the first state. Okay, this will be in the first state I0. So dot E and dot ID, right? So what happens is that after dot, immediately what you can find here is that you are finding identifier, or else you can find you are not finding here operand. What you are not finding, I mean if you observe in this E1, it is an operator, but after dot, is there any operator here? No. In the second production also, E of dot ID, after dot there is no operator. But if you go into the 0th state, that is I0, what happens is that you shouldn't take this operator. So that is why if you take any of the state which starts with operator, because this expression never starts with operator, it is not like plus e, right? So it is not like that. So in that way, that's why you have to take here e1, because there should not be any operation for operator. Okay, and here the operand is there, so id means here operand will be there. So what we are doing here is that instead of taking instead of taking the action onto the operator, we need to take the action to the what you say, to the operand. That is why if there is an operand called s2, because we are shifting towards into the second state. Okay, if you draw this canonical collection, you will come to know, but this is just for explanation purpose that why we are taking here. Okay, also we shouldn't take here also dollar, because initially it's not the final state. That's why you shouldn't take this as a dollar here. Okay, so here we shouldn't take, that's why we are taking e1 as well as e1 in this 0th state. So what we are taking is that we are using missing operand inserted. Which missing operand? Okay, s2 has this missing, so we inserted s2 in the section called id. So we are recovering by inserting an imaginary identifier. So how we are recovering? We are inserting imaginary, what do you say, the identifier in the stack s2, and we are shifting, I mean we are taking that is what do you say, the identifier, and after taking that particular imaginary identifier we are using shift operation, and that shift operation we are shifting towards a second state. That's why we taken as s2 here. So that is why the first e1 represents per missing operand inserted, because it is in the first state. Whereas if you go into the first this is in the 0th state, i0. Whereas if you go into the first state, so what is going to happen in the first state is, for example, like in the first state i1, what happens, e dot it will be, right? So the dot will come after e. So after dot, what is there? Plus is there, right? Here plus is there, right? So this operator should be expected, not the operand. Okay, what it should expect? Operator here. So here what we have taken in this, if there is an identifier here in the first state, so we have to take the category as error e2. Okay, and we need to insert an operator. We need to insert an operator, because after this dot in the second state i1, what we have? Plus here. So as we have plus here, so we are inserting that missing operator, and we are try to recovering that by taking an imaginary operator. Here also we are taking imaginary operator, and that operator we are taking in the stack, because this is phrase level recovery. Phrase level means it thinks that and it takes an imaginary value accordingly. Okay, so it tries to rectifies that. So here what happens, it takes an imaginary operator, and that will be taken here, and we are taking we are performing shift operation to the third state. That's why we taken s3 here. And what we are doing is that we are making this as e2, this part as e2, because that is in the second category. So in this way we have taken for the next state. In the second i2, what you can observe is that, for example, in this i2, if it is e of id dot, okay, now this e of id dot is the final state. After dot there is no symbol at all here, so that means there is no operator, there is no operand here in this one, right? E of id dot, after dot there is no operator as well as there is no operand, so it is in final state. What is this? Is in final state. So here which operation we are performing? Reduction process. What we are using? We are using reduction process. So So reduction process is performed here. So reduction here process we perform, and it is the look ahead of dollar only. That's why I've taken R in the dollar, because this is something like in this way, E of ID dot comma dollar. This is look ahead symbol is dollar. That's why the reduced production has to be taken in dollar only, and the remaining part, the plus and ID, we shouldn't take the value, and we just categorize that as E3 here. So these are the extra characters which has been taken. That means there is some error here, so we just remove them and we have categorized them as E3. And how we have recovered? We have recovered by using, we have recovered by removing that input symbol. What we have input symbol, we have recovered in plus and ID in this part, in this line. Okay, in the second part. And until dollar is found, because it's the look ahead symbol here. What is this? Dollar is in the look ahead symbol. So that's why E3 has been removed here. So again error. What happens? Extra characters has been removed. Similarly, the E1 is also there in the third I3 state, and in I2, in fourth state I4, again what happens? E2 is also there. So we are performing the necessary operations and we are doing accordingly. So if you want to know, you can know what is error E1 refers to, what is error E2 refers to, and what is error E3 refers to. In this way, the phrase level recovery process is going to operate and are performed. So the same thing here only, means phrase level recovery is how implementing the error entry, LR action table. So this is your LR action table which we have taken. So this plus ID dollar is completely your action table. So whatever the things, the categories of errors which you have to take, that has to be taken in this action table only, because in goto we shouldn't make any changes. So this part is your goto and this part is your action. So you have to decide what appropriate recovery techniques has to be adopted, what procedure is best for that. So that has to be constructed, and presumably the top of the stack or the first input symbol would be modified. Okay, how it will be modified? Because it will be, because everything whatever you are taking, we have taking in the stack. So something in the stack we need to delete the value, or something the value has to be replaced with another value. So all of this will be performed with the help of the top of the stack. Okay, or else the first input symbol, because the first input symbol will be the next symbol for the stack as a top of the stack. So that is why you are performing in that either as the first input symbol or as the top of the stack. So in that way we are performing here, and wherever you find that if any blank entries are there in the action field, so we need to take an error routine. So that error routine is actually used to to select appropriate actions. So as we have seen here, we have taken them into 3 categories, and we are in each categories we are performing some or the other different operations accordingly. So that has to be taken here, and this action part may include insertion or deletion. That's just now I said, because in that we have already seen E1, E2, E3. Something we have inserted, something we have deleted, something we have updated, we have altered, we have transport that symbol. So all of these operations you can perform accordingly based on the given example, based on the particular line of state. Okay, so we can make our best choices so that this LR parser will not get into an infinite loop. The main advantage of this phrase level recovery is that it will not make the given condition into infinite loop, because if the condition is false, it tries to rectify that condition so that the loop will not execute infinite number of times. That is the main advantage of having this phrase level recovery. And you know, the safe strategy, whatever the phrase level recovery performs, it will assure in that aspect that the whatever the input symbols it contains, but at least in that one of the input symbol will be removed or shifted eventually. What happens? So that the stack will eventually shrink, means it will reduces the size, because if you are removing any value from the given stack, provided if there are any errors in that, so it will eventually shrink that if the end of the input has been reached. Okay, end of the input has been reached means after reaching to the input, if there is no further values, so it will tries to shrink the size of the stack. How? By performing the pop operation. So popping that stack state that covers a non-terminal should be avoided. Okay, because you know non-terminals shouldn't be considered. Okay, non-terminals which you can take as a left hand side, because here for example in this example I have said you E of id dot. E of id dot means here when performing reduce operation, so it goes to where? E. So this E shouldn't be popped here, because this E has been got when the right hand side is correct only, then only the E has been got. So you shouldn't pop this non-terminal, like not only this E, if you have any other non-terminal also you shouldn't pop here, because this non-terminals has been derived by taking the final states of the given production. So that's why you shouldn't pop such things. Okay, because that has already successfully parsed, then only successfully parsed in the sense this example E of id dot, so this has been successfully passed, then only it is giving E here. Okay, so you shouldn't pop E, because there won't be an error in this non-terminal. The error only can be there for terminals, or else you can consider as a right hand side of a grammar, because that has not been formulated well. So in this way the phrase level recovery process performs. Okay, so these are the two most important recovery strategies that are being followed, not only in top down parsing but also in this parser, that is bottom up parser. Okay, so this is the last topic of your third unit, and with this we completed our third unit. Okay, so by this I'll conclude this class. Thank you.